Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, where everything you're about to hear and see has been done in one take. I'm your host, the One Take Man. As of the time of this video's release, it will have been 7 years since the 2017 Power Rangers movie came out, and with it, 7 years uh, since the smartphone game Power Rangers Legacy Wars came out. In case you're wondering, yes, they were a package deal. The game was meant to promote the movie. But ever since, people have kind of forgotten the movie. But stuff about the game comes up again and again, as it turns out that people there was actually a niche within the within the market for more Power Rangers content, and slowly over time the meta of the game started to change as well, and have the game itself be more of a celebration of the franchise rather than just a promotional vehicle for one aspect of it. And I thought I would celebrate the opportunity, given I've played this game for years, and even though I already have a bunch of a bunch of material both on this franchise and on this movie, there is still one pretty sizable aspect that I've ignored so far. One that has been, and to some extent still is, a little bit controversial, namely the Megazords. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the franchise, Megazords are basically giant composite fighting robots, which are made up of individual combat robots known as Zords. Also, get ready to hear the Zord a lot, because this is the nature of the topic. Anyway, you have these Zords. They combine, typically 4 or 5 of them, sometimes more, sometimes less, and they form a Megazord, with which the main characters fight some kind of gigantic version of whatever monster the villain throws at them. And perhaps unsurprisingly, given they are a very meaningful part of the franchise, it has been decided quite early within the history of the game for there to also be a mode where various Megazords can also fight. And that mode has gotten a little bit of controversy due to the difference in functionality between it and the base game. However, ever since, it has gained more popular appeal, and it has become now to where, and it now has its its own meta, where people are talking about which one is best, which one is worst, what are the reasons for it, what makes each of them what makes each of them good or bad, and perhaps more importantly, pretty much every large mission or raid that takes place within the game also has its Megazord sequence, or more precisely, there are missions that are strictly centered around using Megazords as opposed to Rangers or other characters. So even though the bulk, I would almost say the overwhelming majority of this, of the game is still still Ranger fights and more or less hand to hand. Though there are some fantasy characters who fight with magic more than throwing hands. There is still a very well developed niche when it comes to the gameplay revolving around Megazords, and that is what this video is going to be about. I'll be honest, my initial intention was to, excuse me for that. My initial intention was to give my own ranking of what the best and worst Megazords would be, or it would be more of a least liked to most liked ranking. However, I couldn't really find any good images of any of the Zords, first of all. And second of all, I found this video about ranking the Megazords from worst to best. So I'm not necessarily, I am, okay, I will admit, I am a little bit peeved that someone else came up with the same idea for a video that I did, but that's not particularly surprising. I am somewhat more surprised that someone, or what really peeves me is that someone else found the means to make the video when I couldn't. But regardless, I can still use the opportunity to maybe add a little bit more context to the topic, because I am bringing my own perspective into this niche of the game, and maybe other people will have other perspectives. So showcasing a different perspective, as well as contrasting it with my own, I think would be more interesting. Also of note is the fact that this video is 5 years old, and suffice it to say, the meta has changed a little bit within those 5 years. So it's safe to say that it's safe to say that it will be a glimpse into into a different time within the development of the game, and therefore perhaps I'll have more to more to talk about over the course of it. Anyway, I've done enough rambling for the intro. It's time I actually delved into it. Full credit goes to Korag, Wolzard, Wolf Thunder Ranger, Killer Ranger 34 for the video Power Rangers Legacy Wars Megazord ranking, worst to best. And now that I've gotten that out of the way, it's time to press play and actually react to this video. Okay, and there goes my monetization. This video might just be taken down specifically for these 5 seconds. I have to say, there is just something about that original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers scene that is absolutely just, it hits just right, and it just awakens something something within you. It sounds amazing. It sounds dynamic. It sounds action packed. It activates you. It is very much a more complex battle cry, but a very effective one. Okay, moving ahead.
What's up, guys? Welcome to your...
Well, okay. Thanks for interrupting that. Now let's see. You're comparing the Dino Megazord, the original, Thunder, Goldar, Predazord, the Mega Black Dragon, the Samurai Megazord, the SPD Megazord, and the Dragonzord. Okay. Ever since there's actually been a ninth that appeared. The when it's actually directly based on the 2017 movie. It's somewhat weird that when you consider the fact that the Legacy Wars came out in order to promote the movie, and yet the Megazord from that movie was the last to be added, or as of right now, as of the time of this video's production, it was the last to be added. So yeah, I don't really know what to make of that other than note the discrepancy, and maybe wonder whether or not the shift towards celebrating the legacy actually occurred a little bit earlier than I expected. Anyway, these are the various Zords. I have my own thoughts on how each of these would be classified, but I won't really talk about them now. I'll talk about them as Korag talks about them. Let's keep playing.
Zord tier list updated. So, without further ado, let's get this list started from worst to best in the top 8. So, Goldar is last on the list.
Okay. I I actually disagree with that. Um, I don't necessarily. It's not that. Not only do I not think he's worse, I actually think he is among the best, maybe even the second best overall. Because, and primarily it's for the same reason that I really like uh, the actual central theme of the of Power Rangers, because how I talked about it, that it's like a battle cry, that it energizes you, it makes you makes you want to do stuff. Well, Goldar kind of works in the exact same way. He is very much a bludgeon and a cudgel, and you can and his very function is to be very very offensive. That, and I have to say that is very fun to do, and it is. And it really makes him more noteworthy, more interesting as uh, a Megazord. It might not make him very effective, so I understand why. So I understand why he would be placed here in the worst. But I should note that I actually have a somewhat better opinion, a better opinion on Goldar than Wolf Thunder Ranger, as this guy I assume calls himself, actually has. But anyway, that's my motivation. Let's see what Wolf Thunder Ranger has to say.
Taro, just where do we begin? We were all expecting Goldar to do beautiful damage. I now wish I can get my Chargers back because they ruined my freaking Goldar.
Really? Okay.
Now I want my Chargers back so I can put it into like more of the Metazords, which we'll be showing you in just a minute. But yeah, Goldar ranks number 8 on this tier list just because he has 2 dang shields and they don't connect unless you counter another shield. The odds of countering another shield is hard enough because not many people turtle and people are waiting for you to attack. So Goldar is number 8 on this list.
I guess the meta really changed in the past, in the past 5 years, because I've always had a lot of success with Goldar. But then again, that might also be because me and Wolf Thunder Ranger fight on different tiers. Like, let me just say, no one hangs around with that much money and those many crystals. Like, I have no doubt that I would not doubt it if Wolf Thunder Ranger actually paid for this game or in some way promoting it. But suffice it to say, if he plays on a higher level, he might encounter players who have different overall behaviors, and because of that, I actually had a lot of I actually think I've actually had a lot of success with not a lot of success, but plenty of success with Goldar, or but for me, success means having fun playing. And as such, I was quite effectively capable of of implementing all of his attacks and of really making the most of them. But then again, that's my opinion. Let's see. Let's continue.
Of characters to play. Number 7, Black Dragon.
I agree. Black Dragon is kind of it's kind of not particularly great. Like, I'll say Black Dragon has some interesting attacks, but there aren't really a lot of good combos that can result from that. And when you look at how the meta evolves, and how much more advantageous combos end up actually being, yeah. Also his special is seriously the worst of seriously the worst of everyone. Like, pretty much every other Megazord performs some kind of attack, and some can hit overall throughout the screen. Some of them are effective solely at short range. Whereas Mega Black Dragon, all Mega Black Dragon does is shield, which, yeah, not particularly impressive. Moving ahead.
Like, even with like it's nice and all, he's much better. Just like his ultimate, honestly, just is ass.
I already said that.
I mean, the only thing I can say is, like, if they at least gave his ultimate like maybe 10 seconds of no damage, I feel like this character will be good to actually fight with. But until then, this character just has his own issues. I mean, too many high cost moves, all these fives. I mean, maybe if we can put Havoc Laser at 4.
Okay, that's actually another good point that I didn't really address. The fact that most of his attacks, the fact that most of his attacks are tied in with a pretty high cost. That also makes them less likely to combo. But also the way in which they are, in which they are presented during battle for your selection doesn't allow for them to form really effective really effective combos or hit strings. That's something else to note. Moving ahead.
Missile Charge at 4. This character could rise on the tier list. But for now, we're putting him at number 7 because he's just god awful. He's not awful than Goldar, but he's in the middle. You know what I'm saying? So, number 6, Dino.
I kind of disagree with that because, well, okay. The thing about the Dino Megazord. By the way, the OG Megazord, the first one everyone unlocks in this game, and the first one that showed up within the show itself. Um, Sorry about that. The thing about Megazord is that about Dino is that it has a very classic look and function. It fights and it plays pretty much like a like a more typical boxer or samurai. There are other Megazords that have a stronger samurai vibe. For example, the Samurai Megazord. Still, Dino Megazord is more of a classic fighter, not necessarily as flashy as all the others. That makes it ineffective in certain situations, but its overall effectiveness is still something I find to be quite good.
Still strong, he's still strong, but he does, I guess, slack with.
You'll notice I talk about a Dino Megazord using it as its pronoun, whereas Wolf Thunder Ranger seems to, I think, will use he for every Megazord. In case you're wondering why, I don't know. It just comes across as more. It comes across as more like some more. I think that suits the Megazords themselves more. I think if you are to place a general label at all, or rather, I don't think they have general labels. So that's why I'm using to refer to them by a label that is as close to generalist as I can consider as I can think of right now. The exception was Goldar because Goldar is actually an established character with an established gender identity. So yeah. Anyway, moving ahead.
When it comes to breakers, and Sabertooth Kid can be countered by a breaker, and you can charge it with another shield attack from all the other Zords. He does go a little ham. I'm just putting him at number 6 maybe because he has all these attacks, but you can counter him very easily depending on the Zord you're using that goes above
Are you seriously just going off of vibes, Wolf Thunder Ranger? Anyway.
him, and we're going to go over that too. But Lightning Blast is doing great damage. Rushing Doubles does amazing damage. And that's a 5 cost. Great Zord. Put him at 6 because he does have jumping thrust, but it costs 5, and if you counter it, he did. Sure, you can go into Power Sword, but look at Power Sword. It does no damage now, so that's why he's at 6.
It does no damage, but it does neutralize or incapacitate the opponent for quite a while. So it does have some level of effectiveness because it can allow the player to then set up something else. That is another thing I think. I'm not sure Wolf Thunder Ranger actually takes into account how these different attacks combine into each other or work with each other. How effectively they how effectively they can be countered, or how effective they are at countering others. There has been some mention of that, but I I don't know. I'm kind of missing a little bit of substance here, to be honest. Anyway,
My reasons. All right, let's get to our 5. Samurai Megazord's at number 5.
I actually agree with this. I actually agree with Samurai being better than the Dino Megazord or the OG Megazord. If you were to look at its attacks, there are very few that are actually high cost. There's only the 5 and the 6, and both of those are actually very effective. Okay, admittedly, the Samurai Strike is requires a lot of setup. So the best your best your best option for that is to go in up close, do some damage, then once the opponent is sufficiently stunned, go back, and then pull off the Samurai Strike. And even then, it might not always work. So, but everything else is a pretty is a pretty solid mixture, and is and is likely to be and is likely to provide an effective challenge or an effective counter to what a whole bunch of other opponents could try.
You know, the update did help him become more of a skillful type Zord, but I find that this Zord is slacking on the energy cost, especially for his breaker. Since it's a slow break, I've seen faster breakers than this. I mean, yeah, the damage is great, but have you seen Rushing Double? And that thing only costs 5, and it's easy to pull off. Where Samurai Strike, you legit have to work for it. Like if I
already mentioned that, so I'm glad me and Wolf Thunder Ranger see eye to eye in that on that field. But I wonder if he has any points aside from aside from how bad that is. Also notice I don't he seems to be talking about how bad stuff is, but not necessarily what makes it what makes it good or what makes it noteworthy or interesting. Anyway, moving ahead.
I can be honest, maybe Samurai Strike should have just been a strike. And it's got strike in the name. I mean, what if it was a strike? I think it'd be better because then it causes more of breakers not countering it or a strike countering it, you know? They would have to actually shield it.
That would be an interesting idea. No, I was actually thinking about something else, because Samurai Strike has a once you pull it off, it can hit the opponent in any position across the screen. If instead it were a lower cost but only effective at low range, that would be an interesting counter. That would be something to consider, maybe as a way to extend an existing combo. If you notice something is a possibility for your opponent.
I mean, maybe if it comes a strike and it costs 5, that would help it out. But as of now, Samurai's not in like one of the top places right now, especially with Bonk and Focus, 8 Assault both being 4. The recycling is crazy, so that's why he's at 5, because he's a little bit more tricky to use and kind of harder to play in a way, because you have to pull off Samurai Strike. Samurai Strike, now being a great attack that it is, it needs to be a 5 if this character.
I've actually been able to win a lot of fights with Samurai Megazord without using Samurai Strike. Also, he's really only talking about that one attack, and not about any of the others, and how effectively those can create damage output, or how they can kind of sort of melt into each other. I am a little bit disappointed, Wolf Thunder Ranger. Also, BC. This is part of his alliance within the game, and I think that alliance, at least at the time when this video was made, more or less, kind of had a reputation for always having people like close to the top of this game's leaderboard. So you can make any kind of inferences you want from that, like about elitism, about arrogance, and stuff like that. Anyway, moving ahead.
Which is going to rise on the tier list as well. It's the best way to put it. He just needs a 5 on that, and then everything else will seem fine. 3s, 4s, and 5s. Really good opportunity to make this move a 5. I'm just saying.
Sorry for the ad. I don't have premium yet, and I don't know how to skip it. Actually, I won't skip it, but you will. And we're back. And we already seen Samurai Megazord get trashed. Let's see who's higher than Samurai.
Number 4, Thunder. Thunder going from 1.
I do have to say, I think that's a good choice. Though I'm not necessarily sure I'm not necessarily sure Thunder is really goes above really goes above Samurai. I might agree with it being above above Dino Megazord, but I don't know. Thunder overall is still kind of clunky to me. Like I don't really see its attacks. I don't really see its attacks as being particularly effective or connecting particularly well to the point where it would really merit to put him that much higher, or maybe not that much higher, but just above. So let's see how Wolf Thunder Ranger justifies his decision.
1 to 4 is a big change in the game, big meta change.
Oh yeah, this is an adapted tier list. I should say not adapted, modified. I probably should have checked if Wolf Thunder Ranger has any updated updated video of this kind, but whatever. I'm just gonna react to this, and then maybe later on I'll find something else and I'll respond to that. But until then, let's see what this guy has to say about the Thunder Megazord.
Yes, people have him maxed out. Parry back at 3 does change a lot since you can do the sword. People parry. They do the sword, wasting energy. And then they try to rebuild it, but if you kind of rush him down, he can't really survive. That's why he's kind of number 4 on this list. Sure, Lion Surge and Thunderbolt are the 2 go-tos. It does like good, but it's not enough sometimes because, you could counter it. Obviously, they can power punch it to stop it. But again, think about what your opponent's playing. In the higher metas, he can get countered pretty nicely. So Thunder's number 4. He going down from 1 to 3 is not that bad. But we're about to go over the top 3 Zords.
Okay, that's actually those are actually some good points. You mentioned that there are lots of counter options. That's kind of also what I said. Before you talked about, because there aren't really a lot of ways to make it. He could deal damage, but not. He can perhaps deal damage, but there aren't a lot of ways for him to keep dealing damage. Oh, I slipped into He-Em for this one. I don't know. I'm just vibing here, man. as it seems Wolf Thunder Ranger was when making this.
That now can surpass Thunder if there was equal Zord footing.
Okay, right. Next up.
So start off with number 3.
Why is your mic so bad, Wolf Thunder Ranger? Like seriously, this thing just cost me like 30 euros and it's fine. Like, why do you? What's that?
Predazord, big rise.
I'm not necessarily sure Predazord really deserves, really belongs in the top 3. I could perhaps see more arguments for bottom 3, to be honest, because first of all, it has a lot of things that are somewhat easy to counter. Second of all, he really comes across as more of a hammer. There aren't really a lot of play options available, so to speak. So if you encounter someone who knows what they're doing, then you're kind of just stuck, so to speak. Anyway, let's see what the justification for putting Predazord this high actually is.
Big rise for this character. 1, because his ultimate is godly. Javelin strike.
his ultimate isn't really that good. It is quite short range, and while it does a lot of damage, there are plenty of other. Uh, okay, and it does actually have a less of a. It actually have less of a run up. I will admit that. Other short range ultimates take a while to actually connect. But beyond that, um, I'm not necessarily sure any of the any of the options presented really work.
Strike into it is now one of the greatest things in this game. One of the greatest, strongest damage outputs in the game for just an ultimate, where you don't have to level up the ultimate. The ultimate will do the damage. He's at 3 because, yes, he has all these strikes, he has shields and breakers, but a lot of that stuff can be countered depending on what type of Predazord you're fighting. Turtle or aggressive, Predazord does like have that motion on some of the Zords, especially Thunder now. Because now he can get really aggressive with Thunder. With Thunder's 3 cost, Prairie being a 3 cost, Predazord can get in on him really bad. He's good now. Wild Tailspin now doing more damage. Gator Staff having Sun is good. That's the best thing about it. So now that this character kind of went up on damage on that Wild Tailspin, it rose him up on the ladder and on the tier list. So
I actually don't necessarily agree with those. I think having two like shielding options doesn't really doesn't really benefit it because especially when you look at the actual meta and the details about what an individual Megazord fight consists of compared to the average Ranger fight in the game actually consists of. Defense is not I'll say defense is not as important, and the fact that they both are relatively high costs with 4 and 5 really means that you have to really means that you have to commit to it. It's like, are you sure you want to do are you sure you want to do this? There are other options available, and a lot of times those other options are are better, but you can still be stuck with like 2 of those, and you're like, oh crap, now what I do? Anyway,
Predazord's definitely something meta in the works. So now our top 2 Zords. Number 2 is going to Dragonzord.
I might have agreed to this when Dragonzord first came out because I will say that Dragonzord has a lot of offensive options. Like it can just like the combos it can string, assuming assuming it has the power, are quite impressive, and the total damage output is actually something to behold. And in particular, in particular when it first came out, I'm pretty sure there were plenty of calls made to nerf Dragonzord to so that it's not as overwhelming to to other people who are trying to do other things. But over time as the meta evolved, it became pretty clear that Dragonzord is more of a glass cannon, so to speak, because because there are plenty of its attacks are can still be countered with with a reasonable amount of success, and yeah, I think that I'll say that's basically it. It has doesn't really have great mobility, and there are plenty of countering options, which kind of reduce the viability of Dragonzord overall. Moving ahead.
Now hang on a second. Don't kill me for putting this dude at 2. Let me.
Yeah, as I said, this guy was a real, or this figure, the Dragonzord. When it came out, it was really, it was controversial. I'll be polite, is the polite way of saying it, because simply because it was seen as overpowered when compared to the rest of the roster. So Moving on.
I'll tell you my reasons, and I'll tell you why. One, yes, he's a great sword. Yes, he has 4s and a 3 and a great shield that causes stun. And Missile Storm and the Tail Stinger doing all that free damage. But you gotta keep in mind, if he fights anything else that's a rushing Zord, Dragon Zord could face a struggle. He's his own Rush Zord himself. That's why he has that 3 Tail Stinger and all that. Dragon Frenzy setting him up, and Front Kick doing more of the damage. But keep in mind, all this costs 4, so if he starts getting rushed down, he's going to start losing momentum. So you want
Okay, exactly what I said about momentum and how important it is to gather that and maintain that. Admittedly, it's perhaps not it's perhaps not very important because when you look at the maximum energy a player has at their disposal and then the energy cost of each attack, then pretty much everyone will get like two maybe free attacks at once, and then they have to back away. But within those 2 to 3 attacks, you can actually do a lot of damage and then move back to counter. That and it is that within that meta, within that feeling out, that Dragon Zord has kind of fallen to the wayside more or less, and others lower on the totem pole. For example, Samurai Megazord and for example Dino Megazord have really risen, and is what I'd say would make them perhaps better than Dragon Zord. Anyway,
make sure you do a lot of things with Dragon Zord, and that'll help him out. He passes Thunder in a lot of ways, as you can tell from my streams. He does get in on Thunder pretty hard since he's such an aggressive character. He can destroy Thunder in a matter of seconds. He actually is a really good Zord. He's definitely in the
notice he never said anything. Wolf Hunter Ranger here didn't say anything about Dino or about Samurai, because those guys are actually pretty effective at at countering Dragon Zord. Again, because of that slow and steady approach.
Top 2 for a reason. The only reason I put him at number 2 is because the next Zord can rush him down pretty nicely. And the reason for that is now that Justice Lance at 4, he can counter Dragon Zord on damage in purple. And that Zord is Delta.
I do have to agree. Delta Squad Megazord is absolutely the best Megazord. Part of that is because Delta Squad Megazord actually has the best long range options, and by that I mean there is more than one, and that one doesn't just revolve around it launching itself towards its opponent. There's actually Delta Dive, which is shooting, and then there's Crime Scene Tape, which is basically a stun that can be done from the other side of the screen. So yeah, and then even up close there are plenty of good options. The combo, the double dash, and again, look at that, 3-4. Oh, all of these have some pretty low costs. They can however be countered. So you still need to manage your options very effectively. So when you play with it, you don't get outplayed. But overall, I think the meta, regardless of whether or not you go rush down, turtling, or a little bit more balanced, I think the meta overall, would favor Delta Squad Delta Squad Megazord in most most matchups.
Delta's number 1, man. I'm telling you right now, right when I said if Justice Lance just went to 4, he would definitely be meta. Because now you can go into SPD double slash. Now, my theory for this one was that since you can Justice Lance and only cost you 4, you're not losing a lot of energy. A lot of his attacks are 3s and 4s. And that helps him out. Especially SPD double slash, giving him purple, giving him crits. And his ultimate is good to boot. Because you can get back up from that Tommy denial and just go ham with the shot.
Okay, agreed. The ultimate for Delta Squad Megazord's ultimate is, I'll say the second best in the all the Megazords. The the absolute best actually belongs to Dragonzord, where where its pilot actually jumps out and physically damages the damages the opposing Megazord, and that I have to say is very cool and very effective. But Delta Squad Megazord has basically has free shots that do that do a lot of damage, combining the best of Delta Dive and of Crime Scene Tape, which incidentally are are its best attacks. So yeah, to my surprise, I very much agree with this top spot so far, at least.
SPD now kind of rose in my heart as a great Zord. They just need a better deal for him so people can level him up. Predazord, a good deal to level him up, and those are like your top 3 Zords right there, fighting on the ladder, more unique than just a plain old Thunder. So I like Delta for this reason. He definitely feels a lot better. Has that Justice Lance for Dragonzord, countering Dragonzord when he can with the stab, because the stabbing is pretty fast, and if Dragonzord counters with a headbutt.
Oh yeah, there's something Wolf Thunder Ranger is hinting at that I have kind of hinted at, but not really explored too much, as in how well do they match up against various other Zords. Because you could try to make out a chart and then see which would win in any given circumstance, presuming equal amounts of skill or similar amounts of skill for the for the various players. But beyond that, there are specific counters to specific attacks that that work better in some situations as compared to others. This is something that has really not been addressed, at least at the at least at the lower levels, or at least I don't think Wolf Thunder Ranger actually addressed that. But I've kind of spoken, and I hope at least that I've spoken somewhat more at length about what it is that makes various attacks more effective, what it is that makes them deal damage, and how, and maybe not how they can bounce back after getting hit, because that's something that the player is more directly accountable for. But just what the options for in general, how can it defend itself? How can it attack? And how can you use it any given Megazord to disrupt the plans of your opponent? And there are some that can do it more effectively, such as actually Thunderzord and Dino. And there are some where unless you're setting the pace, you're pretty much done. I would count Predazord and Dragonzord among those.
Well, you counter with a Delta Strike or a Crime Seed Tape, because your opponent's gonna be in a strike animation. You're gonna use Justice Lance. They're gonna use their shield. You use your SPD double strike, your Delta Strike or your Crime Seed Tape. Anything that stops the shield, because it's doable. It's because Delta has that rushdown, which puts him at number 1 over Dragonzord and a little over Predazord, because he can do the same thing against Predator. Predator uses a shield. Predator's doing a strike. He uses Justice Lance. He uses Gator Staff or a shield, and SPD uses a breaker to counter him. That's how it's always going to be sometimes for SPD. SPD has a really good counter against a lot of those Zords at the bottom of him. So now it's like a really interesting Zord to kind of play. Now he's better than Samurai, because now Samurai has to worry about that 4, and Delta can keep rushing down like a great rushdown Zord he is. So that's going to conclude with our tier list, guys. Thanks for watching. I know you guys have different opinions.
Okay, I'm not gonna go through the for the end video spiel. We already got what we what we came here for. So if you found, I hope. And anyway, that was the end of the video. Thank you for your attention. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, well then please like the video and maybe even share it wherever you think other people will also like the video. If you have anything to add, either to my commentary or to Wolf Thunder Ranger's commentary, well, that's what the that's what the comment section is for. So keep the commentary going. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe. And ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. I also have a main channel where I talk about book-related and literature topics, a link to which you can find in the description down below. Right past my social media links, which I also suggest you check out, should you choose to. And yeah, I'll say that's pretty much it. I've covered all my bases. Until next time, I have been the One Take Man.